Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is Jason, host of Fighting Words Financial, and today I wanted to talk to you about NEO Day. Now, I haven't been terribly excited about NEO Day in the past years that they've done it. This is the fourth year they're doing it. It's going to happen this year on January 9th, so 10 days away. And I'm starting to get a little bit more excited. If you thought that 2020 was a breakout year for NEO, I think that 2021 is going to have a lot of surprises for you. I think there's going to be quite a few pretty impactful announcements that are going to happen on NEO Day. I don't want to get overly excited about it because I don't want this video to seem like it's nothing but hype. But let's talk about what NEO could have in store for NEO Day that's going to top their 2020. But seriously, how could you top 2020? This company was resurrected from the dead. They were on the brink of collapse, in February, before the pandemic really took hold. They were already on the brink of collapse there. And since February, they've had 1,000% or more return in only a year. Basically, a $100,000 investment would have turned into well over $1 million at this point. It's going to be hard to top that. And to be honest with you, in terms of valuation, I don't expect them to top it. Like, I don't expect NEO to go to $400 in the next year. That's not going to happen. Realistically, it's just not going to happen this year. But I think that we've all seen NEO recently take a little bit of loss of momentum here. And I wouldn't say that's a loss of momentum. I would really characterize it as a pause. As you know, we've seen that 1,000% gain. Some decide to take profits off the table, and the market digests a lot of really negative economic and regulatory news from China. But economic and regulatory news from China that doesn't really have all that much to do with NEO. What could NEO have up their sleeves to reveal on NEO Day, and how might that affect their future? I think that some of these things are going to be pretty boring corporate things. Like, they need to do a few things to shore up their balance sheet. I think some of the money that they raised with the recent dilution is going to do that. They're going to put some of that towards R&D. And I think they want to improve their finances, like reduce their debt load. Out of all of the electric vehicle manufacturers that just went public here in the U.S., their finances actually look the worst. They have the least amount of assets, least amount of equity there. So there is some improvement that could be done there. But I think that this year, they're going to have a lot to say about new technologies. 2020, despite their near-death experience, they didn't ignore R&D. They sunk a lot of money into new technologies that they were expecting to deliver within a year's time frame. So this is going to be the fourth annual NEO Day. And in the past, it has traditionally served as a platform, NEO Day has, to reveal new products and services. Some of those exciting, some of those not exciting. I don't think this year is going to be any different. But I think that public expectations are going to be high, both in the domestic market and for investors here in the United States. And I do think that they have quite a few surprises here. And they've leaked some of that information. They've hinted at some of that information. But I think they have quite a few surprises that they're going to announce. So number one, first thing I think they're going to announce is going to be the obvious and most anticipated announcement. It's going to be the launch of their first sedan model, the ET7. This has been in the works for some time, and there's even been some indication now that NEO might actually announce two sedan models on NEO Day. So a prototype vehicle for this sedan called the ET7 and plans to launch it were actually first revealed way back in 2019 at Auto Shanghai Expo, only to have an announcement a few weeks later that production was going to be delayed. The decision at the time was based on the desire to produce the new ET series with a newer, more advanced NEO electric vehicle platform called the NEO Platform 2.0, which was intended to revamp the motor and powertrain technology to be suited for a line of sedans rather than their current vehicles, as well as a new software suite to bring autonomous functions up to level 4. That decision was further delayed by the financial troubles of late 2019 and early 2020. So we haven't actually heard a ton about NEO Platform 2.0 recently, but it was mentioned quite specifically in the third quarter conference call in reference to the amount of R&D dollars that were being thrown at it and the intent of the company to have some sort of announcement about NEO Platform 2.0 on NEO Day on January 9th. Along with that, I expect some sort of announcement on NEO's second generation NEO Pilot, expected to be included in that new platform, along with an announcement of some sort about their LiDAR technology that they're supposedly going to be adopting. It's believed that NEO could actually begin mass manufacturing a new sedan model by fourth quarter of 2021. which adds a new complex wrinkle to the announcement concerning manufacturing. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So NIO is expected to announce a 150 kilowatt hour battery pack that it could increase the range of its EVs to over 560 miles, at least by the NEDC standard, which, if you guys don't know, the NEDC standard is a bit unrealistically optimistic in some cases. You could perhaps even cut that estimate by about 30%, but I think 20% is probably fair. This would be a huge announcement and would do more to alleviate range anxiety, which seems to be more of an issue in the Chinese market than in the United States. The new battery pack is expected to be compatible with all existing NIO models, which is extremely important and has pretty large implications for the battery swapping service, which is something apart from battery as a service to a degree, and we'll talk about that. So let's dive right into battery as a service for a second. Since NIO Battery as a Service was launched earlier this year, we haven't heard a lot about the economic impact that this has had on NIO's bottom line. And to be honest with you, there hasn't really been a lot of time for that economic impact to be felt or analyzed. So I don't expect for a lot to be said about battery as a service and how it's affecting sales at this time. But the new battery technology and increased range is going to affect both battery as a service, the sort of financial and accounting concept, and it's also going to have a major impact on battery swapping network that NIO has in place. So we haven't heard a lot about battery swapping lately, which, to be clear, is separate from battery as a service, which is an accounting and financial innovation, not a technical innovation, driven by the desire to qualify for EV subsidies and lower entry costs for a vehicle. While I'm excited about NIO's battery as a service idea, and I'm excited about NIO's battery swapping idea, battery swapping has actually been tried and failed in a couple of places. But it does seem to make a little bit more sense in China with their population density. But from the beginning, when this came out, I've always said that battery swapping, while it's probably the right fit for NIO right now, it's not a future-proof idea, and it's likely going to face some challenges. And it looks like it's already starting to face some of those challenges. And it seems that NIO kind of agrees with this sentiment based on the way they've set things up. From the beginning, their battery swap stations have been built and delivered to locations as standalone, modular, temporary structures. They can be put up in a matter of a couple of days, and it often takes longer for the state-owned utility to hook the stations up to the grid than it does to actually construct and put the station on site. It's a smart idea that allows swapping stations in areas that are underused to be picked up and moved pretty rapidly and moved to an area where they can better serve NIO clients. And multiple stations can be dropped in a single location so long as there is room. Even so, we're starting to hear some stories come out of China about long lines at battery swap stations now, and sometimes 45-minute to an hour-long wait as NIO's popularity grows. And let's face it, NIO's popularity is only going to continue to grow. The battery swapping idea is not a particularly financially efficient one when compared to merely installing a supercharger network, as there's an attendant that has to be there to operate the machines. The batteries have to be transported, they have to be stored, they have to be charged somewhere else and then brought back to the swapping station. And in this case, it causes a whole other level of infrastructure that needs to be developed and maintained. I've always suspected since the very beginning of the way they announced this, and then when how they constructed their stations was explained to me, that battery swap technology, as inefficient as it is for NIO financially, is a temporary bridging method to overcome range anxiety for the Chinese consumer and to have something in place to address the lack of charging infrastructure. And that charging infrastructure is surely going to be improved pretty rapidly over the next few years as more and more electric vehicles hit the road. A battery with a range of over 500 miles will do a lot to alleviate pressure on swapping stations, especially since some of the earliest NIO models really only have an effective range of about 180 miles on a single charge. If you need to swap a battery 2.5 times less than you did before, it relieves a lot of congestion at swapping sites. I think that 10 years from now, with improved battery technology, rapid charging, and improved charging infrastructure, battery swapping is quietly going to be reduced to a pretty insignificant part of the overall pack of services that NIO offers, but it will have served its purpose at that point. It will have bridged that gap in anxiety for the consumer. Well, enough about battery swapping. Let's move on to the next thing. I think that the next big announcement is going to be, it's almost a certainty now that NIO is going to announce plans to enter the global market somewhere. I think they're going to enter Europe first, and I think they're going to open up their first location in Denmark. This has been reported before. There's been rumors also that NIO has actually already acquired some property in Copenhagen. The project is rumored to be called Marco Polo, which I think is a pretty cool name for the project. All right, folks, so here's the wrinkle that I was talking about when it comes to manufacturing the new line of sedans. And it's also going to be the riskiest sort of prediction that I'm going to make in this video. Remember when I said that the ET7 was revealed in 2019 and just a few weeks later it was announced that it was delayed? Well, there are several articles from May of 2019 floating around that confirm that one of the reasons that NIO announced the delay was the fact that their manufacturing partner, state-owned automaker JAC Motors, was not capable of manufacturing the planned NIO Platform 2.0 vehicle line, and that NIO would seek to build their own factory. Now, we've covered this before, but NIO was forced to shelve the plans to build their own factory and line of sedans because of financial troubles in 2019, but they did continue the research and development on NIO Platform 2.0. Now, I could be wrong about this, but if you saw my last video about Apple and the fact that VW bought a controlling stake in the VW JAC joint venture company and a 50% stake in JAC, you would know that in the intervening 18 months since NIO first delayed the ET7, a lot has changed about manufacturing electric vehicles in China. Basically, one of NIO's competitors and the company that has the largest market share for all vehicles in China, VW, now owns a large portion of the production capacity for NIO. They own 50% of JAC. I think that it's probable that NIO is either going to announce a new manufacturing partnership agreement with a new company for the line of ET sedans. They might announce that they have some sort of new and more favorable arrangement with VW JAC, or they may announce plans to build their own factory. So a new factory, folks, would mean a new round of dilution to raise cash. And to be honest, right now they just had a round of dilution, and I don't think that a new factory is going to be the most likely announcement for a couple of different reasons. I think that it's actually far more likely that they're either going to announce that they have some new arrangement with VW JAC, or they have some new manufacturing arrangement with a third party. I think that in the case of NIO, I don't think that I would want one of my largest competitors controlling my manufacturing capacity. I think that as far as I'm aware, they have the freedom to go out and strike a new deal with a third party, and I think that that's probably the most likely course of action. They're going to enter into a new partnership production agreement with a new company for the new ET line of sedans. Anyway, folks, those are just my thoughts. That's just conjecture there. Nothing there is fact. Nothing there is even rumor that I've heard. I know from looking at past articles that JAC was not able to produce NIO Platform 2.0. That might have changed in the last 18 months. It might not have changed in the last 18 months. But I do expect some sort of announcement about production facilities. And you guys know me. That's probably what I'm most excited about. Anyway, folks, these are just my thoughts. You can tell me how wrong you think I am in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.